Well, you wake up in the morning and realize the story you thought you were going to bring has now taken on a whole new form, and you're going to have to hold in there because there is a ton of information breaking out of the White House right now. Trump stating, "I didn't know anything about it." A signal sent that's causing Washington, Capitol Hill to scream, "Heads should roll." What the hell just happened? Man, it affects the Oval Office itself. And if any of this is proven to be factual, which unfortunately parts of it already are, we got a disaster on our hands. And that is what I intend to bring to you in full detail in just 1 minute. Man, woke up this morning, expected to have a nice cup of coffee, relax, dive into the news, make sure we get all the main concepts out there for you, and then I get a freaking blockbuster story that's breaking as we are speaking. I'm going to bring that to you. But first, as I always do for you, the major headlines. As President Boasberg, might as well call him what he is, he's running the damn country at this point, based on what he dictates, but he's not the only one, right? Putting out this judgment against Donald J. Trump's administration, basically stating that for the foregoing reasons, the court will deny defendant's motion to vacate the TRO. In other words, all those people you're trying to ship out that are criminals, that shouldn't be here, that are here illegally, I'm not comfortable with what you're doing. Each one should have an individual trial. Judge James Boasberg rejects Trump's administration bid to lift order blocking deportation of Venezuelan. Wait till I show you what Venezuela does when these folks land. Because it appears other countries understand, but our own court system doesn't. I'm going to get there quickly, I promise you that. But not the only one to make a statement now, was he?
There were plane loads of people. It's a class action. There were plane loads of people. There were no procedures in place to notify people. Nazis got better treatment under the Alien Enemy Act.
That was D.C. Circuit Judge Patricia Millett. I'm not sure which one it is. It's inconsequential. The statement is consequential. That those we're deporting are treated worse. But it's all in an effort, of course, to just simply stop anything Trump is trying to do. If they don't have the officials on Capitol Hill right now to do it, they'll use the court system to do it. They've been so effective so far, huh? What did Tom Homan have to say about all this?
A judge, an activist judge, making a comparison. Are you kidding me? To the Holocaust and Nazis? First, what the hell has that got to do with anything? We're talking about Aliens Enemies Act. We're talking about terrorists being deported from the United States.
I'm going to show you how right he is, as a matter of fact. What the hell does it have to do about anything? It has absolutely nothing to do with anything. You see here the planes landing in Venezuela, and watch what the Venezuelan authorities do with the folks that we have deemed under the Aliens Enemies Act either terrorists or here illegally. Right? If the court system here in the U.S. was right, well, they would be treated like royalty, right? But before I get started, do me a huge favor. I want you to subscribe to the channel. Those of you who've supported me here, various means, thank you so very much for doing that. I can't tell you how much it means to me. And also, I can't tell you how much that this sponsor means to me for helping to support this channel to keep these lights and cameras on. Noble Gold Investments. If you haven't been to JustusKnightGold.com, I need you to go there right now. This is an amazing company, amazing product, and a new sponsor for this channel. And I ask you this. If your portfolio is over $250,000 and you're not hedged, man, you're sitting on a ticking time bomb. Markets are all-time high, but history shows what comes next. Volatility and increased risk. A 10% allocation into gold and silver can help uncertainty and protect your wealth. Noble Gold Investments makes it easy to hedge your portfolio with institutional-grade gold and silver right now. Every qualified investment will receive this 1/10 ounce gold coin. So protect your portfolio today. Go to JustusKnightGold.com or simply call 877-646-5347. And remember, there is always a risk of investing, never a guarantee. But Noble Gold Investments will help walk you through it all. I want you there today. Make sure more information in the description box below. But now let's get back to this broadcast. No, they're not treated like royalty. As a matter of fact, today the first 238 members of the Venezuelan criminal organization Frente Argua arrived in our country. They were immediately transferred to CECOT, the Terrorist Confinement Center, for a period of 1 year renewable. The United States will pay a very low fee for them, but a high one for us. Over time, these actions, combined with the production already being generated by more than 40,000 inmates, they'll help our prisons. They're going to be rebuilding our prisons. This will help us finalize. Oh, wait. On this occasion, the U.S. has also sent us 23 MS-13 members wanted by Salvadorian justice, including 2 ringleaders. So I guess the Trump administration isn't doing so damn bad now, huh? But our own court system can't figure this out. They want to keep them here, individual trial. Don't mind all the tattoos that they're finding on them. Those don't mean anything. It's a case of mistaken identity. And more than likely, folks, this is going to end where every single one will get an individual trial before deportation. That's what they're attempting to do here. A new court will need to be set up, delaying. And isn't that the tactic all around? But the administration causes a problem for itself. Of course it does. Why not? Or did it? Was a mistake made in this Signal chat? I'm going to go through all the details of this for you with my own analysis of what I believe, because I look forward to your opinion. It's an important story because all it does is, and it's unfortunate because the Trump administration really can't make a misstep, because the minute they do, mainstream media blows up. Democrats come out. You see what they did? Well, I'll show you that hypocrisy too. Circle back, though, real quick before we go any further, because President Boasberg, well, he's going to get cut off. GOP-led House to hold hearings on judges who have blocked Trump actions. No, not just that. No, Pam Bondi comes out, sends this letter. And by the way, we're going to now call everything we're doing state secrets privilege. What does that mean? Oh, I'm sorry, President Boasberg. I mean, Commissar Boasberg, you are now cut off from any further information because we can't trust our own court system. And we must continue to do what the U.S. voter has mandated President Trump to do. Great maneuver. It's going to end up in more court maneuvers. In other good news, Alejandro Mayorkas, I know all your favorites. In one broadcast. Well, his Secret Service protection pulled. What took so long? That man is not at all very photogenic. Takes the worst pictures, doesn't he? But not the only bit of good news, no. Today we had a taxpayer-funded housing for illegal aliens. Proud to partner with Secretary Noem to ensure illegal aliens cannot exploit programs meant for Americans. What a novel thought, huh? It's amazing the simple things we're doing one by one to unwind what the Biden administration did. But what the Democrats wanted to do. Like this simple find. Did you hear this clip from Elon Musk coming out of the White House cabinet meeting?
Fraud was with the Small Business Administration, where they were handing out loans, $330 million worth of loans to people under the age of 11. I think the youngest, Kelly, was a 9-month-old who got a $100,000 loan. That's a very precocious baby we're talking about here.
Nice. We were all struggling during COVID, but it appears some people weren't. And folks, that's called one thing. It's called fraud. And Pam Bondi now announcing that investigations will be launched into that fraud, thankfully. But there seems to be something else Pam Bondi has to contend with. It's unfortunate, isn't it? Because congressional members can't seem to keep control of themselves. And they keep saying things that if Donald Trump or President Trump, anyone in the Trump administration said anything even close to this, there would have been screams coming from the rooftops. But listen in here for one moment.
This is domestic terrorism. And Maria, now you have this Congresswoman Crockett who is calling for attacks on Elon Musk on her birthday. Let's take him out on my birthday, she says. And yet she turns and says, oh, I'm not calling for violence. Well, she is an elected public official. And so she needs to tread very carefully.
Oh, Jasmine Crockett, our favorite, right? This was the post on her birthday. Oh, I didn't mean any violence. What are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about, except for when you double down and you do it even worse. And tell me, in your opinion, is this calling for violence or not? Don't worry. This is a real black and white example for you.
I think that you punch. I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching. You know, I think and I love Colin, and I think towards the end he started to punch a little harder. But like, it's Ted Cruz. I mean, like, this dude has to be knocked over the head, like, hard, right? Like, there is no niceties with him. Like, at all. Like, you go clean off on him, right?
So what are your thoughts? To me, that was a call for violence. Plain and simple, period, end of story. This is what we're allowing, and they're still allowing this government to divest into. Not acceptable, not okay. Violence is never okay. We make enough mistakes without violence, right? So this story, I'm sure you're waiting for me to cover and get my opinion. So I'll start with this. Do I believe a reporter was accidentally added into a chat stream? I do. And I'm going to go through the details. But it is not what you're being told. This war plans is BS. That portion of it. And if you heard Hegseth's retort to this, you'll understand why that is BS. And I'll show you the text that they cite within this Atlantic article. The Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans. Jeffrey Goldberg. Here we go again. Of course, U.S. national security leaders, actually one person, put you into a text stream. Included me in a group chat about upcoming military strikes in Yemen. I didn't think it could be real. Then the bomb started falling. I'm not going to read all this to you, I promise. The story technically begins shortly after the Hamas invasion of southern Israel, of course. This is where Peter Hegseth and I come in. Oh, now they're best buddies, suddenly. Jeffrey Goldberg and Pete Hegseth. On March 11th, I received a connection request on Signal from a user identified as Michael Waltz. We got a problem. If that's proven to be accurate, and they've admitted that these texts were real. At least portions of them. But not the war plans portion. So it goes on about how they're chatting back and forth, and here's the text that they show. J.D. Vance, at Pete Hegseth. If you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again. Okay, you've read all this. It's quick. Let's just make sure our messaging is tight here, and if there are things we can do up front to minimize risks to Saudi oil facilities, we should do it. I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic. Now, there could be a twist here. There could be a very legitimate explanation because of the wording that they're using. These aren't war plans, folks. No matter what they're reporting to you. At least not what's been disclosed so far. But Mike is correct, and we are the only ones on the planet, on our side of the ledger, who can do this. Nobody else even's close. Question is timing. I feel like now is a good time as any. Given the President of the United States' directive to reopen shipping lanes, I think we should go, but POTUS still retains 24 hours of decision space. As I heard it, the President was clear, green light. But we soon make clear to Egypt and Europe that we expect in return what we expect in return. We also need to figure out how to enforce such a requirement. Are you catching the drift of what they're doing here? These aren't war plans, but it's a very outlined roadmap against Europe and a little bit of pre-signaling that we're not in support of you. But here's what our thought process is. Excellent, a good start. Good job, Pete, and your team. The team and Mal did a great job as well. Great work, all powerful start. And there you have it. There's a text that they disclosed, right? In addition to this portion that they're making a big deal out of. At this point, a fascinating policy discussion commenced. The account labeled J.D. Vance responded at 8:16. Team, I'm out for a day doing an economic event in Michigan, but I think we are making a mistake. Vance was indeed in Michigan that day. The Vance account goes on, 3% of U.S. trade runs through the Suez Canal. 40% of European trade does. There is a real risk that the public doesn't understand this or why it's necessary. The strongest reason to do this is, as the President of the United States said, was to send a message. And then they highlight this statement that Vance made. I am not sure the President is aware how inconsistent this is with the message on Europe right now. There's a future further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. I am willing to support the consensus of the group, the team, and keep these concerns to myself, but there's a strong argument for delaying this a month, doing the messaging work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is, etc. Oh, J.D. Vance is departing from Donald J. Trump. It's his job. I don't know how many of you worked in a corporate environment. You can sit back and roll over and allow every decision just to be made and not give any input, but your advancement in your career is probably going to be pretty limited. Or if you disagree, you can have the cojones to voice that opinion. And if I was to appoint a vice president and he didn't agree or she didn't agree with what I was doing, I would sure hope I would hear the dissent. Of course, I'll make the final decision. But I don't want a patsy. Someone who just rolls over and says yes to everything I mentioned, because what is that all about? And so J.D. Vance, who may disagree with this decision, does not mean there is a divide in the White House. Folks, this is how the mainstream media manipulates stories. Now, again, I still think there was a mistake made, but there could be one potential explanation. Democrats jumping on this. Heads need to roll. I'll show you the story here in a second. Notice to White House staff, there is a room in the building and secure systems where you are supposed to have these discussions, which, by the way, within the text disclosed by Jeffrey Goldberg in that Atlantic article, he states the actual war plans, they are referenced, however, they are referenced in respect to them being put on the proper server, not within the text stream. Sorry, folks. You're reckless. You recklessly put lives of those pilots at risk. You got lucky. Time to reevaluate the way you are doing things. Hillary Clinton chirping in. You have to be kidding me. Coming from the person who used a private server and laptops is now going to criticize people for potentially making a mistake on a text stream, which I'm sure you've all made. How many of you have sent a text and accidentally put the wrong person in it? It could be embarrassing at times, right? But it happens. Should it happen? Of course not. Should somebody be called to task? Absolutely. And don't think for a minute that President Trump won't do that, because he gives you the indication when he says, I don't know anything about it. But let's listen to Pete Hegseth's response first when questioned on this.
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in The Atlantic, and were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage.
What they put out was a discussion. I hate bailing Europe out again. Let's make sure our messaging is right. I share your loathing of the European freeloading. It's pathetic. Europe. If Europe doesn't remunerate, then what? If the U.S. successfully restores freedoms of navigation at great cost, there needs to be some further economic gain extracted in return. To me, now this starts to take a different shape. These aren't war plans. But did you notice within those texts? Isn't it nice to see that even in their private texts, as this was so eloquently pointed out, I'm happy to see that even in their private conversations, they do put America first. Would you have gotten the same from the Biden administration? And if the Atlantic editor Jeffrey Goldberg had any integrity, he would have made his presence known immediately. That just shows what an American POS he is. I hope you know what that stands for. But they go on. Because let's be a little cynical. Cynical Publius. I love this one. Because it really paints in a potential narrative that no one's discussing. The minute I read the chat, my very first thought was that Goldberg was specifically and deliberately included so that he would leak what he saw to the public. The idea was to let Europe know just how unhappy American leadership is with Europe's unwillingness to pull its weight militarily. The back channel, seemingly accidental nature of that reveal was powerful, and I believe intentional. Also, as someone who's read his fair share of top secret SCI war plans, this ain't it, folks. And it wasn't it. So what do you think? Intentional? Accidental? Interesting narratives take shape when you just sit back. You read the actual article, because a lot of people don't. They read a title and they blow up over it. But they don't read the details of the article. See, Jeffrey Goldberg's had a lot of inside sources for a long time. So what say you? Mistake? Not mistake? Intentional? Can't wait to read your opinion on this one. And what did President Trump say? Because isn't this the ultimate authority? Outside of President Boasberg, of course. Here's what he had to say about it.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis?
Right.
Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time. Anybody?
Now, folks, to put the final spin on this story, President Trump doesn't lie. He'll tell you what you don't want to hear, but he doesn't lie. So that statement is concerning and leads me to my initial conclusion that this was a mistake. How the president could not be informed, because based on his statement, if he was informed, then he just lied to the American public that he had no idea, which I don't believe he would do. Well, then, Houston, we might have a problem. And those calls for heads to roll, someone will be called to task for this. Now, lucky for them, the Democrats are the ones who are calling for heads to roll. So that may actually save Michael Walls, who I think will be the number one person called to task on this, because he is the one who added Jeffrey Goldberg to the stream. A lot of people wouldn't look deeper to see everyone in the chat stream. How many times do you do that and open up the context to see who's in there? No, you see Michael Walls invited you. You take it and you start chatting. Jeffrey Goldberg doesn't say a word. You wouldn't even know he's there because you don't see his name on that text stream unless you open it up on top. So, do we have a problem? I know you believe in Trump. I know you don't think he would lie to your face directly when asked a question such as this. He would say something, I am aware, I'm investigating it. I could hear him saying that, but that is not what he said. And what leads to my initial conclusion that this was an accident, as much as I would like to believe that this was intentionally done. No, Trump would have been involved in that. And folks, we potentially have now a major problem. And this article of Head Should Roll. Congress erupts over stunning Trump administration leak. Will result in change. People using Signal within the military to communicate isn't unheard of. But to put a reporter who's worked against this administration from day one within that stream is simply unacceptable. And I promised you on this channel, it's not fluff here, it's facts. So my conclusion, based on the facts I've read, is a mistake was made. Thankfully, It resulted in no lost lives for American soldiers, and it will be corrected. And President Trump, he ain't going to let this go. Oh no, there'll be a private meeting, and there'll be a lot of screaming, and we'll learn about it 4 to 8 years from now as to what happened in that meeting. But it ain't going to be pretty, and I wouldn't want to be anyone who was in that chat stream, especially Mike Walls. If you disagree with me, go ahead and put it in the comments, please. I want to make sure as this story develops that I'm staying on the pulse of what you're looking to know. Hope you enjoyed this broadcast. I love you all. Can't thank you enough for being here again today. Much more news to follow. As a matter of fact, if you want more information, I'm going to kick this over because there's some stuff brewing up right now. 7 signs that war may be coming. And it all is coming out of what France and Germany. As a matter of fact, I'll show you a little bit of this here. Do you know they're distributing this to people in France right now? This is emergency kits. This is going out to their general population. Conscriptions are now happening in other countries as everyone is trying to saber rattle to protect Ukraine. And Zelensky makes more moves to initiate what could potentially be the next world war. I'm going to go in full detail here in just a few minutes. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.